There is a lake in the heart of Russia where, if you had stood on the shore for a single hour, you would have absorbed enough radiation to kill you. Not over years, not over months. 1 hour on the bank of a quiet lake would have been a death sentence. For decades, this lake did not appear on any public map. The region around it did not officially exist, and the people who lived nearby were never told what was sitting in the water, just beyond their homes. This is Lake Karachay, once the most radioactive place on the surface of the Earth. To understand how a lake becomes deadly, you have to go back to the early years of the Cold War. In the late 1940s, deep in the Ural Mountains, the Soviet Union built a vast and secret nuclear complex to produce the material for its first atomic bombs. The facility was called Mayak, and the city that served it was so secret that it was left off all maps and known only by a number. Building nuclear weapons creates enormous quantities of radioactive waste, some of the deadliest material ever made by human hands. And in those early, desperate years of the arms race, the people running Mayak needed somewhere to put it. At first, they poured it straight into the river, the same river that thousands of villagers downstream used for their drinking water, their cooking, their washing. People sickened and died, without ever being told why. When the danger of the river became impossible to ignore, they needed another solution, and just beside the complex was a small, natural lake. Quiet, unremarkable. Lake Karachay. So they began to use the lake as a dump. Year after year, decade after decade, they poured high-level radioactive waste into its waters. The lake drank it all, and it became something that should not exist. The radioactivity concentrated in the water and in the mud at the bottom to a level almost beyond comprehension. By some measurements, the sediment of Lake Karachay held more radiation than was released by the bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. All of it, sitting in the open in a shallow lake, in the middle of a populated region. This is where that 1 hour comes from. Near the most contaminated areas, the radiation pouring off the lake was so intense that standing beside it for around 60 minutes would deliver a dose that could kill a person within weeks. A lake. Not a reactor core sealed behind meters of concrete. Not a sample in a sealed vault. An open lake under the open sky that a person could simply walk up to. And for a long time, it sat there, in secret, until nature did something no one had planned for. In 1967, the region suffered a severe drought, and Lake Karachay began to dry up. As the water level fell, the deadly bed of the lake was exposed. The radioactive sediment, dried by the sun, turned to dust. And then the wind came. The wind lifted that radioactive dust off the dry lake bed and carried it across the surrounding land. It scattered fallout across an area that was home to hundreds of thousands of people. 500,000 human beings, by some estimates, were exposed to radiation over the long, secret history of this place. The state still said nothing. The closed city kept its number and its silence. Eventually, the Soviet authorities understood that they had created something they could not simply leave alone. A lake that could poison the air the moment it dried, or the moment its sediment shifted, and so they began, slowly, to bury it. They filled Lake Karachay in, not with earth, but with thousands of hollow concrete blocks, and rock and soil dropped into the water to hold the deadly sediment in place and stop it from ever drying out, or blowing away, or sinking down toward the groundwater below. The work took decades. The lake, as a body of open water, was finally sealed over in the 21st century. Today, where the deadliest lake on Earth once lay, there is a gray, lifeless patch of filled-in ground. The radiation is still there, locked beneath the concrete. It will remain dangerous for longer than recorded human history has existed. It must be watched and contained, effectively forever. And now, think about what this place really is. We imagine that the most dangerous things humanity makes are kept far away, behind walls, behind warning signs, behind layers of steel and law and secrecy. But Lake Karachay was none of those things. It was a quiet lake in a green landscape that ordinary people lived beside for decades without ever being told the truth. The danger was invisible. It made no sound. It cast no shadow. The water looked, to the eye, exactly like water. The most radioactive place on Earth did not look like a nightmare. It looked like a perfectly ordinary lake. And that is the part that should stay with you. Not the radiation, not the secrecy, but how easily and how completely something can become deadly, while still looking entirely calm.